Alright, in this lesson we'll explore some familiar operators, that is the equality and inequality operators, but this time we'll use them to look at strings. I'll begin by using three variables, a, b, and c, and I'm going to assign them each a variant of hello, the string. So a, I can make hello with a capital H, b, I can make hello with a lowercase h, and c, I'll make another hello with a capital H. Alright, so let's begin with a few equality comparisons. Again, the syntax is going to be the exact same as it is for numbers. It's going to be the double equal sign. That's simply going to check if the two values on both sides of the double equal sign are equal. So if I compare the string hello to a string like zebra, predictably I'm going to get false. If I compare it to something like lion, I'm going to get false. If those two strings aren't literally equal, then we're going to get a false here. Pretty obvious. And similarly, if I do not equals with the exclamation point equals, that case it's going to return true if the two are not equal. So in this case, the string hello represented by a is not equal to lion, so I am going to get a true here. Hopefully that's pretty simple and logical by this point once we've played around with it a lot with numbers. The more important thing here to remember is what happens when you're dealing with strings with different casings. So what happens if I compare A directly to B? So they both have the word hello, but remember that in the A variable, the H is capital. In the B variable, the H is lowercase. This means that the two strings are not equal, so we're going to get a false on the right. Okay, A is not equal to B because casing matters. A string with a bunch of capitals and a bunch of lowercases is completely different. All right, even if as little as one character differs, it's going to be an unequal string. In fact, remember that spaces count as well. So if I even have something like hello here, let's do C, and I do hello with a space at the end, and I compare A to C, it's comparing hello with hello and a space at the end, and it's still going to give me false. So every character matters and every casing matters. Watch out for that. Let's go back to our original view. So predictably, A is not going to be equal to B. If I compare A to C, we can see that they're both hello with a capital H. This time I'm going to get a true. If I compare B to C, this is comparing a lowercase hello with an uppercase hello, so those are not equal, so I'm going to get a false. And by the way, if I didn't show this before, you are actually welcome to compare a variable to itself. Remember that a variable is just a placeholder for a value or an object. So if I compare A, which is the string hello with a capital H, and I compare it to itself, predictably we're going to get a true right here. The same basic rules apply if we're using the inequality operator, which is the exclamation point followed by the equal sign. So for example, if I say, is A not equal to B? In this case, again, we have the same word, but hello is uppercase in one and lowercase in another, so they are not equal strings. So when I check whether they're not equal, I'm going to get it is true. It is true that these two are not equal. If instead I compare is A not equal to C, that is false. It is false that those two are unequal because they are equal. So hopefully that's starting to make a little bit of sense. Finally, here's where it gets interesting. We can also use things like the less than sign and the greater than sign when comparing strings. It's kind of a bizarre syntax and something funny to wrap your head around, but it does work. So I'm just going to remove this. So if I do a basic alphabetical comparison like does the word apple come before banana, I'm going to use the less than sign. In this case, we're going to get true. Apple does come before banana. This is literally doing an alphabetical sort, much like you'd find it within a dictionary. And it'll continue by the letter if the couple first letters match. So for example, if I did something like comparing hello to help, in this case, the first three letters in each H-E-L match. So when it gets to the fourth, where it's comparing L to P, L does come before P. So this is going to give us a true on the right. Hello is less than help, which means it appears before it when we get to, let's say, an alphabetical classification. There is one huge caveat here. This is where it gets even more confusing and a little bit more fun, to be honest. There is a difference between uppercase and lowercase, and in the Ruby ranking algorithm, capital letters come before lowercase letters. So if I compare something like A and I compare it, is it less than lowercase a, I'm going to get true. All right, so it basically goes through the entire alphabet capitals, and then it goes through the entire alphabet in lowercase, and that's the sorting algorithm. So I can actually check, is capital Z less than lowercase a, and I'm also going to get true because it completes the entire alphabet of capitals before it proceeds to the entire alphabet of lowercases. If you want to compare two strings and you're dealing with things like casing, a recommended strategy would be to call a method that either converts all of the characters to lowercase, that would be downcase, we'll dive into that later, or converts them all to uppercase, which is upcase, and that allows a normalization of how the strings look before the actual comparison. So that's just something to watch out for. If you have something like a capital like help, and is help less than banana, the answer is again going to be true because even though H comes after B, capital H comes before lowercase b in Ruby terms, so help is going to show as being true that it is less than banana. If I replace this B with a capital B, now it's going to compare the first letters, capital H versus capital B. Capital B does come before capital H, so this is going to evaluate to false, okay? Just the quick introductions of some equality and inequality operators when we're dealing with strings. This syntax is going to largely stay the same no matter what Ruby objects we're working with. So far we've done numbers and strings. Same goes for booleans, by the way. If I haven't shown you this, you can do something like is true equal to true. It is true that that's equal. If I do is true equal to false, let me actually wipe this out so we can see. Is true equal to false? No, it is false that true is equal to false. Is it true that false is equal to false? Yes, it is true that those two false values are equal to each other. A little bit confusing because we're using so many combinations of the words true and false, but basically the equal sign and the double equal sign and the inequality operator, which is the exclamation point followed by the equal sign, can be used for any two combinations of objects. You can use them for strings, for numbers, for booleans, later on for arrays and things like that. So just an important syntax to remember and commit to memory as you practice with Ruby. And as we continue on in this section, we'll continue diving into more methods and operations that we can do with our string objects. So right now we've kind of covered the things that strings have in common with numbers, and now it's time to dive into some of their unique attributes. So I'll see you in the next lesson.